Among the Jungle podcast, where we're expanding our perception of the plant kingdom. Welcome. I'm botanist and host Shai Kaina, and I would love for you to join me as I interview incredible plant people around the world to create an audio vault of inspiring botanical knowledge, all while harnessing a deeper connection between us and our natural world. If you're ready, it's time to inspire your wild. Welcome back, friends, to episode number 23 of Among the Jungle podcast. Today's episode has been highly requested for some time and kind of touches a soft spot because honestly, what do we miss more than our precious plant swaps? With hope in my heart that we'll get to rejoin some of our plant friends this summer, this episode walks us through the many ways in which we can facilitate plant swaps both in person and online, and inspires us to look at new ways of connecting through plants. Today, we join Michelle Faught of Tampa Bay Plants as she teaches us the art of hosting a plant swap. She walks us through the simple steps to follow when planning a plant swap and how the concepts can be adapted to our modern world. Join us for a fun conversation on spreading the joy of plants. Today, we will explore how to host a thriving in-person plant swap, how to navigate exchanging plants online, and the best etiquette for attending a plant swap. The show notes for this episode can be found at amongthejungle.com/023. Get ready to be inspired by the many ways in which we can share plants this spring as we welcome Michelle to the jungle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be doing this. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to know, a little bit about you and how you became interested in plants.
Okay. So my name is Michelle Faught. I am the creator of Tampa Bay Plants. I host plant meetups and do clipping exchanges to build a bigger, better plant community, a stronger plant community in Tampa Bay. So that's kind of, just the little niche that I'm doing. And yeah.
I love it. And I can't wait to come down there next time I'm visiting and be able to hopefully catch one of these meetups. That would be great. I lived in the Tampa Bay area for a while and I have a lot of friends down there. So it would be incredible to be able to make one of these meetups. So what inspired you to start Tampa Bay Plants and really start facilitating these plant swaps?
So I started getting into plants more actively and looking at Instagram accounts. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess my, regular social media account, people might not be wanting to see plant after plant after plant. So I made my own Instagram plant account. And then I wanted to follow local people. So I made a hashtag Tampa Bay Plants. And I actually met Bethany of Bethany Just Said. She and I live like 20 minutes away from each other. So we hooked up and we met in real life. And then that kind of just tumbled into like, okay, we can do this, with a whole bunch of other people. Why not start a community, a young community that is on Instagram, on social media, and let's make this a real life thing. Because, it's so much easier to talk to each other on Instagram, but then you want to meet the people who you're talking to. So that kind of gave the inspiration of doing Tampa Bay Plants and meeting up and doing little plant swaps.
It's really such an awesome connection, taking that from following each other online and really being inspired by each other to becoming friends in real life. I really think that's one of the most potent magics about plant swaps. Everybody's definitely going there for the exchange of plants and to spread the joy of plants, but it's so cool because plant swaps are an environment filled with people who are like-minded and have a very similar and right now powerful interest. Right. And it allows you to connect really quickly and make new friends. So I really think that's one of the most special magics of the plant swaps that I've hosted, which are significantly smaller than some of the ones that yours have grown into. Yeah. But before I really get into that, I just like to know for you, what is the significance of being able to come together in this environment and share plants?
Yeah. So meeting people obviously was my number one, on top of like you said, like-minded people coming together, creating those bonds, and then the bonds of sharing plants. So, it's really cool when I have a plant, I can give you clippings, and then eventually your plant's going to grow and you can give somebody else clippings. And it just becomes this kind of like chain reaction, or like generational of this plant, going through other people. And I found that so cool. And I wanted to have that setting in our community. And then on top of that, you're in line waiting for your turn to go through the plant swap, and you're meeting the people around you and then making those connections. It's just, really cool. And then on top of just being able to find a plant that you really wanted on top of that.
Yeah,
so,
like the scavenger hunt aspect makes it really fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I found cool is most of the plants that I've gotten from plant swaps ended up being plants with a really cool story, because somebody came to that plant swap with that maybe cutting or that plant, and they've already had a story with it. Maybe you get the opportunity to meet that person there at the swap, and that plant continues on with you getting to have a story. And so I think that's one of the most special things we develop with our plants is the stories that kind of come along with them, who gave them to us, how we came across it. Not just the plant itself.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. In that I have some plants that I'm like, oh, this is, a piece of Bethany's plant. Or I also am, friends with Morgan of House Plant Club. She lives, 10 to 20 minutes away from me too. Somebody who I've definitely been looking at her Instagram account for a very long time. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, we live so close together. What are we doing? So I have pieces of her plants and that I've shared in the swaps too. So it's just a really fun, having pieces of plants that then turn into stories with friends or family members. I mean, I know a lot of people are getting, you go to your grandma's house. Now that you're into plants, you're like, whoa, grandma had such a cool collection, So it's really fun. And that's kind of how I even got into plants. The way that I started was at my wedding. I started getting into plants and I thought, okay, let's do these like succulent gift favors. And that was 10 years ago. I still have those succulents. Some have died, but I still have some of those succulents that have now turned into like a pretty big jade, plant. And I have that story and I protect that plant as much as possible because it has that meaning to me. So it's just, plants have stories and we're lucky enough to share those with other people.
Yeah, honestly, I have some very special moments, in my life as well with plants and connect with other people. Even my huge Thai constellation, when I moved from Florida up here to Alaska, I didn't take my Thai constellation, but it was also one of just a couple plants I couldn't really separate with either. Right. And so I dropped that one in a sacred fig off at my mom's house. And what I love about it is, even though she doesn't plan on keeping it forever, she did get attached to it and it's her plant now, but now it's kind of taking over the room she built onto her house. So now she's kind of like, I can't wait till you can have this plant back someday in the future. And it's just great because now there's an aspect of both of us involved in this plant and caring for it. So when I do receive it back, it won't just be a plant that I purchased. Sure. She was there. She came down from Tennessee to Florida with me. We went to this special market for my birthday, came across this plant. It was just like a whole big deal. Yeah. Finally negotiated down this great price and took it home. And then 2 months later, I had to move to Alaska and she's just like, oh my gosh. So, she didn't mean to wind up in this whole plant journey. But what was so cool is that market where we went and bought that Thai constellation, she bought several plants for herself. And that kind of started the seed for her. She shipped a bunch of plants home to her. That month, she replaced 18 fake plants in her house with real plants.
My gosh.
And she just started going to town. And it's like all these little seeds develop and just become these beautiful network of stories that, live on with these plants for as long as we have them and as long as we pass them on. So that really is a beautiful, beautiful aspect to it all.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I'm curious how your plant swaps started out. Tell us about your first plant swap and how that went.
So in August, I think it was August of 2018, I decided to put on a first plant swap, and I did not know how it was going to go, especially with social media. You don't know what's going to happen. So we had a really good turnout of 20 people. I was very surprised to have that many people. And it was a really intimate getting to know one another, and trading plants meetup. And what I love about that is I am friends with every single one of those people now. They are like my close plant friends, like from that day. And a lot of them still come to my swaps. Like we just have that connection now. So it was a great first plant swap. And then after that, the second one we did, I was trying to do them in like a quarterly, like almost actually, originally it was like every other month, but then it started to get a little bit too much. I just was like, okay, we'll do it quarterly. The second one, we had 50 people come, which was totally unexpected again, just like to see that grow.
Double.
And as quickly as it did. But, that's the way social media goes. It just is a tumble of seeing other people and, getting to know that information.
And one friend attends one and then they share it with people for the next one.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's definitely how I hear about, like, oh, how'd you find about this? Oh, my friend went to this one. Yeah. So it's really cool. So then probably a couple swaps after that, we had at least 75. I didn't do a count, but it was between 75 and 100 people. And I was just like blown away. And that it was just so crazy.
Wow.
And thankfully I had some friends that were able to help me in that time because I just did not expect that. And
it's a lot to manage too.
Right. I was going to say, being a one-woman show, it was just like, oh my goodness. So, but it was amazing. It was really amazing to see those people stand in line and wait, their turn. So the way that I do it is I try to make it the most fair that I can because I don't want anybody walking away with a bad experience. So, and I've always done all of them for the most part this way, in that you bring 3 clippings and then you take 3 clippings.
And you said you've used a similar layout the whole time, no matter how big they've gotten?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I've tried a couple different things towards the end. I think the last one I tried a little bit something different because I knew it was going to be so big. And I was really just trying to make it as fair as possible. Also, I had some feedback about, wanting to make it more like intimate kind of. I mean, intimate with like over 100 people. Can we really do that? But I wanted people to be talking to each other, not just standing in line, hoping and praying that they get their wish list plant. Of course, I want that to happen. Of course. But I also, started this for the connection of meeting people that you follow and you may have always followed and you just don't know the person behind the plant. So that's, part of it. So from the beginning, I did bring 3 clippings, take 3 clippings, and everyone gets in line, first come, first serve. And then we go around the table once and you pick, or your first time, and you pick 1 clipping. So then the second time around, you can pick 2 clippings. And by the first time around, I hope that everybody picks something that they really were looking at the table and wanting. So I feel like that was probably the most fair way to do it. And then after that, we just keep going around until all the plants are gone. So it's, it's a really good time. So yeah, I stuck with that model the whole time. And then last one I tried to do like doing it by tens because I knew that there was gonna be so many people. And I figured, okay, we'll have like a group of 10 people go, and then I'll call out the numbers for the next and kind of do it that way. But it still ended up being a line of people, like pretty much what I've always done because everyone was so used to that model. And then of course, everyone was very anxious to get something that they really wanted. So, at that point I was like, we'll wing it and we'll see how it goes. But I try and ask for feedback from the people that have been going for, since the get-go. And I've never had really a bad experience. I'm very lucky and fortunate. But, plant people are the coolest people. And I feel like I've never had, met an interaction where it was a poor one. So it was just really lucky. But yeah, plant people are awesome. So I feel like everyone's kind of like, excited, but also chill. So
yeah. Everybody's already kind of on the same level. Mm-hmm. And from the plant swaps that I posted here in Alaska, I've seen that a lot of them are so giving too. They come with so much more than just the three plants.
For sure. I've had one girl came and she brought, I don't know if she was doing like a plant clean out of some kind, like at her home, but she had like at least 3 boxes. Like her and her husband had to walk back and forth to her car to bring more. And it was amazing. Like, and she was bringing full plants, like not just clippings and stuff. So it was really awesome. Like, so lucky. But then it also took up probably more than half of the space that I had for like people to put out stuff. So we had to work around that. But yeah, it's the reception. People most of the time bring way more than required.
Have you ran into any snags or anything in hosting one, in either the setup, finding somewhere to host, with the size, anything like that?
I will also say a part of the reason why I started this too is that I wanted to visit local plant shops and nurseries and then kind of like have that connection with them. Cause it's easy to buy from Lowe's and Home Depot and big box stores, which is great, but also supporting local small business plant stores. So when I first started this, I was very lucky in that a couple of them reached out to me and was like, hey, I would love to have you host a plant swap at our location. So that was very lucky and generous. And so it never had really been a problem for me. Of course, like plant shops would like to have that many plant people all in one, all at one time. It's going to be a great day for them. And I'm so happy to help them in that way. So yeah, we've never really had a problem as far as like finding a venue to do it. And, you learn after every single one of them how to be a little bit better the next time around. So I've tried a few different things with like the layout of the table. Cause the second swap, we had a very small, like 6-foot table, and that's all we had for 50 people and three plants or 3 clippings per that person. So I pretty much it was fun to me in that we just layered all the plant clippings on top of each other. And I kind of, for the like popular plants, I stuck a few underneath everything. So it was almost like a little scavenger hunt kind of, cause I just wanted it to be fair. So if all the good stuff was on top, then like, it would go pretty quickly. So since we only had like a 6-foot table to work with, and then others like our last one, it was a very big, the biggest venue that I've been in, nursery. And they had like, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 12, 8-foot tables. And we filled all of them. So, so it's just been an array of like, how things are done. I try and keep it obviously the same flow of it. But as far as like the layout of where the clippings are going, it's always been different. So that's kind of fun too, I think.
Wow, it's just growing so much. And I love the concept of having it at plant shops, because that was one thing I didn't really consider doing when I started doing plant swaps, because I didn't know if that would be like a conflict of interest for them, because of course you're just like exchanging these for free, or maybe you just have like a ticket price for attending the event or whatever. And I just didn't know but it makes total sense that there's so much more available at a plant shop than just plants. Not to mention, if there's other plants that they want, people are more than happy to spend money on that and the other offerings. So it just makes great sense to have them at local plant shops and really bring that community support full circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I was very excited to have as much reception as I did for plant shops to want to do swaps, because it's true. Like, they're going to have people in there, plant people, that even if I get a clipping of wish list plant that I really want. If that store has that plant, I'm going to also buy that plant, the full one. So yeah, it's been really fun to have that, like you said, full circle of the community being involved.
And I'm sure it's not difficult to get people to attend plant swaps because, we get a lot of interest here, even in our real small community in Alaska. How do you make sure people do show up that show interest? Does that really matter to you? Do you sell tickets? How do you kind of organize the front end aspect? It's seed starting season, friends, and I'm not making the same mistakes I made last year. If you remember, I purchased cheap, unbalanced lights online to start my seeds, and after waiting all that time for the trays to germinate, I began to notice my seedlings were looking super leggy. That's when I was inspired to take a deeper look at my lights, which wound up being completely unbalanced and caused me to have to scratch all my trays and start over, getting a late start in the garden. Fast forward to this year. I've been using Sono Farms. That's S-O-N-O Farm. A system I actually trust to grow strong seedlings. But that's not all I'm using it for. I've also been using this incredible light to rehabilitate unhealthy houseplants and experiment with new plants I've never had enough light to have indoors before, like palms, crotons, and a variegated pink lemon tree. The grow panels are easy to install, have adjustable light settings, and give the full spectrum of light required for healthy plant growth. Sono Farm is offering 10% off to listeners using the link in the show notes or in the bio of any of our social medias. Give your houseplants the light they need to thrive and your seedlings the best start possible for a bountiful harvest this fall.
When things started getting bigger, I felt dependent on the venue that we were having it in. I felt like we needed to have a little bit of control as to how many people are going to show up, just for the sake of how many people are showing up. And, some of the plant shops are not capable of having that many people to have in their area. So yeah, I did start doing tickets. Plus, it just takes a lot of time, and I love being a hobby, but it's a lot of time and effort to put into these things too. So yeah, we started doing tickets, and then just as far as finding people that are also as passionate, it really just is a trickle down effect to social media. And I don't feel like I've had really that much of a, I don't feel like I had to police anything in that aspect. So it's maybe I'm just lucky, but we really have a good plant community, and people are very, like you said, very enthusiastic to attend a plant swap. So
yeah, you probably almost have to. The ticket sales probably help you keep that number capped to some extent.
Yeah, and it sucks because of course I want everybody to attend that wants to attend. So turning people away, I've had a very hard time doing that, and thankfully, I haven't really had to do that too often. I feel like, I don't know. It's just, having just, I always tell people, there's going to be a next one. I will have a next one. Now, this year has definitely thrown a wrench into that with 2020 and COVID. And, obviously we can't gather 100 people anywhere. So,
I was going to ask how that's caused you to pivot this year and change the style in which you do these.
Yeah. So we were lucky to do one in February, literally weeks before everything kind of came, at a halt. I'm so glad we got that one in, and it was our biggest one we've had. So I was happy that we at least got one in. But as far as pivoting, it's difficult because my whole, the whole basis was to have in person, exactly, conversation, meetup, interaction. So I haven't really, been as active in, this year, but I did try to do a virtual swap, and it was nationwide. It was whoever was following me or knew about it. And that went well. It definitely went well. I feel like there was a few more snags doing that shipping is involved then, and participants that sign up that may end up not wanting to participate at some point. That was a little bit difficult too. So I haven't attempted that again. Maybe I will down the road, depending on what 2021 brings to us. We'll see. So
how did you organize that? Like an online swap?
Right. So I was in one. Somebody else had put one on, I think, right in the beginning of all the quarantine. And so they used Elfster, which is it's almost like a app, or not an app, a website that you kind of do almost like Secret Santa. That's essentially what started, the website. That's what it's used for. So I did it that way. I wasn't really sure how else I was going to do it, to be honest. And that's how the other one did it. So you get matched up with somebody. And so it's not really, it is a swap in between you and somebody else, but it's not where you have an option in front of you like a real swap. So it was very different. I do know, and I have participated in another one where these people put together a Google list, kind of, where you fill out the form and then they match you with other people per the plants that you're looking for. So, and then they left that up to your communication between that person. They were like, hey, here you are matched together and you both want a plant that each other has. Now go talk about it, essentially. So you were meeting people in a social media aspect, but people are getting very creative with trying to see how they can still, swap plants and do it through, social media and mail. So
yeah, you're right. People are getting creative. I even thought it was creative the way that you set up at market too this summer.
Right.
That was kind of a unique way to do it.
Yeah, that was, I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but I was willing to attempt it because a lot of people were like, I really want to not get back to normal, but have some kind of interaction again with our plant community. So yeah, one of the newer plant boutiques in our area wanted to have a swap at their location, but they started putting on vendor markets and invited me to participate in that. So that way what I did there was it's, come as you go, when you come, I'll give you 3 tickets per your clippings. However, I capped it at 3 just to make it a little more controlled. Gave you 3 tickets. If you wanted to use up your tickets with stuff that you already saw on the table, you just give me those tickets back. You take your plans and we're cool. If you want to walk around the vendor market and then come back and check out the table. So it was a very free flow, very casual, which I loved about that. It really just made it more of a easygoing, so that was really cool. And I'm glad that I was able to participate in it. I would probably do that again, but if the opportunity comes up, then for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really smart. A great way to be out where people already are and to get a little bit more connection going out in the open air so people feel a little bit more comfortable.
Right.
That come and go.
Yeah.
It's really smart and relaxed.
Yeah, it was really a nice step back into things. So now that winter's here, granted, Florida in winter, that's not really a thing.
The best time of year.
Right. So
the one place where it really is the most wonderful time of year.
Sure. So yeah, we'll see when that starts kicking up again. I hope soon, but time will tell, I suppose.
Absolutely. What guidelines or tips would you suggest to somebody who's attending a plant swap, etiquette wise and things like that?
So a lot of people ask me, what should I bring? And I leave that completely up to, like I said, I don't want to police anything. So you can bring whatever you'd like to bring. My one ask is bring something that you would want to take home. So if you bring something very small, then it's just, I want it to be a fair situation. So I just ask, bring whatever you think you'd be comfortable taking home with you. And that's been, it's definitely worked out fine. But yeah, and then people ask me well, how do I bring a plant clipping to the swap. Like, do you want it cut fresh or is it root? Do you need it to be rooted? And I just, leave that up to what you're bringing. It's not, to me, it either or is fine. And then I also have like tutorials on my Instagram on how to wrap plant clipping. So, when it's fresh or just how to bring it to the swap, because it's easier to like carry and be gentle with like what you're bringing. And then,
That's super helpful.
Yeah. It's just easier. Like there's no dirt, going everywhere. And
yeah, because I've had plant swaps myself where even someone took a fresh cutting, but because they didn't wrap it,
right,
by the time the swap is over, that cutting is like really dried out, or some dry out much faster than others. So just having those helpful tips for people to bring their cuttings in the best shape possible really gives the next person a good start.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I try and help as much as possible, as to especially like people that have never gone to one before, open communication and that.
In my experience, the only thing I've really seen happen other than cuttings, potentially drying out if they're not wrapped properly and things like that, which having resources on that is just beyond helpful, is it's just people making sure that they don't bring something that already has a pest. And that is the one issue that I have dealt with plant swaps that could be very detrimental to a plant swap or somebody's personal collection if they're having it at their house or anywhere else. There are plants. So I would say from my own experience, just being mindful that not bringing a sick plant or a plant with pests, like you're saying, bring a plant that you would want to receive, and nobody wants to receive mealybugs. Okay.
No.
Nobody wants mealybugs or spider mites. So help us out.
Yeah, for sure. No, I do. Yeah. I suggest bringing healthy plants. And I do also recommend, even not just swaps, but in general, when you're taking a new plant home, quarantine that plant just for like a couple of days to make sure, because, insects happen, right? So they're doing their natural thing too, as far as, what they're doing with the plants. So it's hard because of course you want to immediately put that new plant in the mix with all your other beautiful babies or in that pot, whatever it is. So, just for like a day or two, definitely check what you're getting to make sure like, okay, there's not anything climbing on this, clipping or whatever. But yeah, I also just no matter what, when you're bringing anything new, don't put it immediately into your collection, until you inspected it, or just, leave it out for a couple days before you do that.
Absolutely. Always a great tip with any plant you're bringing home. Do you think it's helpful for people, or have you seen people label the plant cuttings that they bring for people who don't know?
Yes, that's another thing that I highly, highly recommend, because it's so helpful for anyone, not just like the novice, but anyone who, some plants look just like other plants.
Especially in their small house plant form. If they're young, they look very similar.
Right. So, and then, if you know what you have, you can Google how to care for it. And then also I recommend, because we're all on social media, like, to add your Instagram handle onto your tag. So then you can, because people are so excited to see where their clippings go. So then you have that connection with that person. You can obviously, like, whatever you do, like tag them when you post a picture of your new clipping or whatever. So there's still that like interaction too of, who has what.
Wow. That is a great tip. I love that. That's so smart. And such a way to build community afterward, that online plant community that everyone got addicted to and we all kind of love so much, and a way to keep that perpetuated. Because I don't know about if you have local plant, groups, but of course it seems like every area kind of does. And in our plant groups, we try to do those Instagram swaps and stuff. But having that connection just builds more of a story, like we were talking about earlier, being able to see where your plants have been journeying on to. That's great.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So that's fun too. I highly encourage people doing that, of course, and name tagging your plants so you know what you're getting. Yeah.
Super helpful. That was one thing we dealt with with the first swap is about half the people came and did ID their plants and the other half didn't. And it was something I didn't really think about ahead of time, was telling people to ID their plants for my first swap. So once people showed up, I did have tons of scrap paper. So people were like going to town labeling all their plants once they got there. But I was like, this is something really smart to just have your few cuttings wrapped up properly, tagged with what it is, and then the person who takes it home can easily care for it to the best of their ability.
Right. And I love where people go like super extra on like their tags and they make them like beautiful. And you're just like, you want that even more.
Yes.
Like you want that clipping even more. But yeah, people go really, you know, the extra mile sometimes, which is awesome to see. So
yeah, it makes it really special. So what tips would you give to somebody who's never started a plant swap? They may go moving into this next year, want to try an online one, or, you know, maybe something at a market. They have all kinds of options, but how would you suggest they get started on planning a plant swap?
So it's so difficult to like put it into like, I don't know, like the way that I did it was the hashtag, started, you know, finding out who's in your community, following them, making that first connection. And then, you know, I liked keeping everything on Instagram. I felt like it was more controllable, I guess. I tried putting stuff on Facebook and then it spreads like wildfire.
It really does
and that
on Facebook.
Yeah. And it might be a good thing, but I also feel like it's kind of not a bad thing, but just like uncontrollable. And also then you're just dealing with like a whole bunch of other things. So I tried to keep everything on Instagram to have that connection. But yeah, I, you know, would post an initial like, hey, I'm thinking of doing it on this day. And I usually try to do it like a month out so people have time to plan. And then, you know, just throughout that month, setting reminders so people can see like, you know, sometimes you miss that story or whatever. And then, yeah, just, you know, everyone's going to want to do it differently. People have asked me how I do it so they can follow kind of like that structure of bring 3, take 3, and then, you know, the round the table type thing. So that's just how I recommend doing it. As far as a virtual swap, I'm very new to that. I feel like the first one I did was okay, but that might be something that 2021 will bring to tinker with, depending on how long we do this for. So yeah, I mean, if people have questions, they can definitely ask me, DM me, and I can, you know, answer anything that you guys have to question on.
Yeah, that's great. And it's very similar to how I get started with the plant swap too. I kind of pick a time frame about a month out. I normally post. You kept yours on Instagram. I did mine specifically on Facebook. And what you're saying is very true. I started there in the plant groups because we have a couple really good local ones that have lots of members that are very active. So I just pop in there. I'm like, hey, who's interested in a plant swap? And I give a couple time options because I know that we have moms and we have all different kinds of plant people. And so I let them select from a couple time options and even a couple date options. And then whichever one has the most attention, that's the one I plan it for. And like you said, just set the notifications. I make a Facebook event, and Facebook events give a life of their own. Everybody who is invited starts spreading it, and people can just find it on the events page. And so unless you make it a private event where you're only inviting specific people, you do want to watch, because either making it ticketed so you know exactly who's showing up, because tons of people will RSVP and then maybe only a few show up, or a ton will show up. So it's really kind of a mixed bag with the Facebook events.
My last one, I did do a Facebook event, and I think that it really wasn't me that started it. Maybe somebody that found out about it decided to take it amongst themselves to do that. And it was like, I think there was like 500 people, like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we cannot have this. And on top of that, I had it, you know, it was a ticketed event. So then I was very worried about people missing the fact that there is tickets and running into that whole like, oh, this is kind of a private event, but in a public space. And, you know, it really made me nervous. And then on top of that, I don't know how, but the local news found out about my event and maybe they found out because of Facebook or something, but somebody screen capped like the local news has like events coming up this weekend and like my plant swap was on there. I'm like, oh my gosh. I like definitely went into full panic attack mode. And so it was funny. Thankfully, I think only like 2 older ladies found out about it that way, and that they came, and it was fine. It was totally fine. But it definitely gave me a bit of anxiety, like seeing how fast and how many people it spread to.
Yeah, people get really excited. And here in Anchorage, we have a community that stretches about, like, we're here in Anchorage, but then the next city is like maybe 30 minutes, and the next one outside of that's like an hour or so. And all those communities are in this like kind of plant network. So we have to kind of choose where we're going to locate the swap, and everybody's coming in from all over the place. But I kind of experienced something similar between my first and second plant swap here. My first one, it was kind of like spreading the word to the plant friends I had created in the group and stuff, kind of more word of mouth of just the people I was making relationships with. So it was smaller. Yeah. We had about 25, 30 people, and I had it at my house. So that was a lot of people to show up to my house. Like I didn't think it didn't seem like a lot of people, but then once
until
they were
all in your house
and they all brought their plants to my house. It's really, you know, like you said, having one table for that 35 people. I think we had like 4 or 5 tables because people brought way more than 3. I didn't have a cap on how many. So people were just bringing everything they had. And there was just so many plants and so many people. I was like, wow, okay. So then the next Facebook event I made, we had just such a great turnout. It was really a good event. It was Halloween themed. And so we had door prizes. And if you wore a costume, you were entered in those. So it was just really fun. And people were excited about the next one. So then I had a Facebook event, and it had like 145 RSVPs. And I was like, wait, no. Whoa. Yeah. We need to bring this back down. My house cannot. I'm sure that's some kind of fire hazard. Like,
you can't. Yeah, I was going to say, and you definitely can't have like almost a wedding venue of people coming to your
house. I was like, wow, okay, I need to figure out how to make this. And they weren't ticketed. So I was like, next time I'm going to have to do that just to make sure that you're capped for the amount of space you have, because everybody wants to bring their plant friends with them to that type of event, and the numbers can grow really quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really amazing what I've seen, experienced at plant swaps, and the friendships that have been able to grow out of them. I've seen our community really come together here. And with me hosting this podcast, I like to give away gifts like door prizes from my podcast guests, you know, either plant straws or whatever it is, someone to promote from the podcast. And it's so cool to see even that spread amongst our community. The first one, I was giving away plant straws, and people were so excited about the plant straws that now plant straws have spread so much in our community that our one little plant boutique that opened this year, they've started carrying them with Ellen. And so it's really all kind of spread, and it's been really awesome to see just all the multitude of ways the plant community comes together to really build relationships.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So how would you recommend somebody that wants to start building some more plant community in their local community get started?
So like I said, I did the hashtag, and I encouraged anyone who was local to me that, you know, we already knew each other through plants or wherever, use that hashtag. So then other people, and even hashtags with like Tampa plants, like there's so many ways that people can find your page through the hashtag and then kind of grow from there. So I recommend doing that. That's really how I started to find local people to make plant friends with.
Yeah, it's a great way. Hashtags are a great way to get eyes on people who are all centralized around one particular topic. And you can find that pretty much anywhere for your area. Even like you're saying, if it's just Tampa plants, I know that when I use Alaska plants or Anchorage plants, you know, a lot of plant people are under that hashtag. So just doing a little bit of searching in hashtags in your area, Facebook groups in your area, depending on what social media platform you're on, there's all kinds of awesome ways of building community. But this in-person stuff really takes it to another level. I hope that we get back to doing some more of these type of things in the new year.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Me too.
Well, where can we continue to follow you, Michelle, and all your new inspired plant swap ideas in the new year?
Yeah, well, I will be posting everything on Instagram. So Tampa Bay BAE Plants is my handle. So yeah, follow me there, and that's where I'll be posting everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us all this insight today. I know it is much desired by our community. Everybody's looking for ways that they can start building more connection. And if 2020 has taught us anything, it is how much we love people too, even if we didn't realize that before.
Yeah, for sure. Taking gatherings, for granted, I don't think any of us will do that anytime soon. We miss our socialization and our groups of friends that we've made through plants.
Yeah, plant conferences, plant swaps, all the all the kind of fun group communities that we had in the past. Hopefully will make their comeback this year, and we'll continue thinking of new ways to stay inspired in the meantime.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was great.
Learning about all the ways we can share plants is getting me ready to host a plant swap. How about you? This conversation inspired all kinds of ideas for me, and I hope it did the same for you. Sharing plants is a wonderful way of trusting the abundance of nature and connecting more to our fellow humans. The challenge for you this week is to share a photo and story of a plant you received in a plant swap. You can tag Among the Jungle and Tampa Bay Plants on Instagram to share it with us. Be sure to keep up with Among the Jungle on Instagram, where I drop lives, challenges, giveaways, IGTVs, and on TikTok for short videos on plants, planet, and positivity. Be sure to follow Michelle at Tampa Bay Plants, that's BAE, Tampa Bay Plants, on Instagram, and you can find the show notes for this episode at amongthejungle.com/023. If you loved this episode, share it with a plant friend, and let's keep spreading the joy of plants. I hope this episode inspired your wild, and I hope you feel inspired to share the stories of your plant collection with other plant people, so we can all grow closer together. I can't wait to see the beautiful stories and ideas you guys come up with. Until next week, Jungle Dwellers, love, light, and aloha. I am so grateful to the plants that bless this beautiful earth, and to you for choosing to nurture a wild place inside of your heart. I hope this episode inspired your wild, and I'd love to hear your feedback, suggestions for future guests, and other botanical notes at amongthejungle.com or Among the Jungle on Instagram. It's been lovely exploring this exotic world with you today, and I look forward to where the journey takes us next week. Mahalo for tuning in, and stay wild.